Lives lost, buildings leveled to the ground, families broken. The Russia-Ukraine conflict is entering the second calendar year, and no one knows how much more of a devastating impact it's about to bring ahead. This is Kiev, the capital city of Ukraine, once a key industrial and cultural center in the region, which is no more today. A year ago on February 24th, many locals fled their homes as the Russia-Ukraine conflict broke out.
Хотелось бы вернуться. Надеемся, что там успокоится достаточно быстро все, чтобы можно было вернуться.
Очень тяжело уехать из дома, все бросить, поэтому, хотелось бы, чтобы все было мирно и тихо, и мы могли бы спокойно вернуться в свой дом.
Home, for those who chose to stay or those who chose to leave alike, now means a place where life is totally different.
Друге питання. Так, я втратила роботу, тому що я працювала на відеопродакшені, і вторгнення, продакшн закрився, і я залишилась без роботи.
Мне кажется, война сказалась на каждом гражданине нашей страны и даже на жизни врагов. Вот.
As the conflict goes on, the huge total input and loss on the battlefield are hard to be exactly valued. But the pain inflicted on social and economic life is felt sharply. On the battlefield, the losses are more painful. Lives are being lost every day.
Друзей, знакомых, погибших, такие есть, к сожалению. Есть те, которые были в лавах ЗСУ. И в первые недели, или месяц, сейчас, только месяц, где-то через месяц, наверное, мой хороший друг погиб під обстрілом в Маріуполі.
Якісь знайомі, якісь знайомі знайомих, просто вся мережа, вся стрічка соцмереж, кожен день це якийсь некролог, хтось гине кожен день.
Under heavy sanctions imposed by the United States and the European Union, Russia's GDP declined by 2.1% in 2022. The regional conflict is sending ripples across the world. Developing countries are bearing the brunt.
هاي أزمة عرفت بس إن شاء الله بتعدي. عم يمشي الأزمة كله بس على البنزين على الغاز على كله أزمة على الخبز في أزمة.
السنة في فوارق أسعار مهولة يعني لا تقارن يعني من 50% مطلع يعني نسبة الزيادة في كل صنف في أغلب الأصناف هي زيادة كبيرة جدا يعني.
وروسيا لتعطيل قرارات كل منهما اتجاه الآخر، وتبقى المشكلة هنا أن النظام العالمي يدفع فاتورة هذه الحرب التي لا يعلم إلى أين تتجه وإلى أين تسير حتى تاريخه.
But many observers have named Europe as the hardest hit, apart from the conflicting parties. Western Europe had the direct spillover effects of the conflict almost from the very beginning, like taking millions of refugees. And as a former big buyer of Russian gas, plunged into an energy crisis following its sanctions on Moscow.
Több mint a harcorosa a gázár, a villany meg kicsit több mint a duplája lett. A melegvízre használok gázt, egyébként le van kapcsolva a gáz.
Το καύσιμο είναι είδος πολυτελείας πλέον, ενώ ξεχνάμε ότι είναι κοινωνικό αγαθό. Το χρειάζεται ο κόσμος να πάει στη δουλειά του.
The EU is buying US fuels at higher prices to wean itself off Russian fuels. According to a report by oilprice.com, US natural gas exports to France increased 421% during the first 8 months of last year. LNG prices increased by 1,094% in August alone.
بدون شك انتهزت الولايات المتحدة هذه الأزمة في تعزيز مصالحها الاقتصادية لشركاتها. لم تطلب ذلك من منتجي الغاز الصخري في الولايات المتحدة لخفض الأسعار بالنسبة للأوروبيين، بل بالعكس شجعتهم على رفع الأسعار وانتهاز هذه الفرصة، وبالتالي
While grappling with the energy crisis, Europe has to provide military support to Ukraine.
There will be more military costs. That means decreasing social expenditure in Europe.
Behind the massive spending for Ukraine, Europe is being criticized for giving up its independence in policymaking for Washington. Last month, the United States and Germany separately announced that they will send advanced battle tanks to Ukraine.
Germany was reluctant to provide tanks to Ukraine, but ultimately they were told that you'll be isolated. So therefore, there is influence of USA, and in certain terms they cannot have independent policies.
Já o conflito na Ucrânia expõe a tentativa de instrumentalizar a Europa para a contenção da Rússia.
Evrope od Sjedinjenih Američkih Država, tako da i mnogi političari opozicionih snaga u Evropi smatraju da je Evropa postala vazal Amerike.
Scholars pointed out that behind the crisis is a beneficiary of the conflict.
Even though United States and Europe, they claim to be alliance or partners, transatlantic partners, but Europe has to understand the United States is acting on behalf of its own interests.
According to data released by the Department of State, US foreign arms sales grew significantly in the fiscal year 2022, with the so-called US military support for Ukraine the main contributor. For belligerents, Ukraine is the battlefield, but for US arms dealers, it's a market.
The US military-industrial complex is definitely the major beneficiary of the war between Ukraine and Russia.
Mir nije u interesu NATO niti vojno-industrijskog kompleksa Amerike. Jedino, kao što rekao, profit ubira vojno-industrijski kompleks koji je osnovni generator nove trke u naoružanju.
En este conflicto, uno de los que más ganancias está sacando es precisamente el complejo militar e industrial de Estados Unidos. Una de las cosas que está funcionando ahora es precisamente el interés de Estados Unidos.
As the fatal conflict is entering its second year, there is still no hearing of talks on how to end it, but rather how to carry it on.
We have to continue the really massive support.
Now is the moment to double down on our military support.
All those who can supply battle tanks of this kind should now actually do so.
But at the moment, the hour of dialogue hasn't come yet.
As President Biden often says, the United States will support Ukraine for as long as it takes. We will not waver.
These voices from the West are disturbing the world.
The United States is actually fanning the flames of the Russia-Ukraine war by constantly offering arms, ammunition, planes and all that, and tankers to Ukraine.
When the war is going on, the conflict is going on, anybody who is pacifist, anybody who is trying to talk sense, they will not be welcome.
And right now, this Western hawkish position, mainstream position, don't allow any free and open discussion inside the European Union or inside NATO.
In Washington, there is also a voice of protest against the US's role in the conflict and beyond.
It's not just the U.S., it's a transnational military-industrial complex. There's massive warmongering propaganda, and unfortunately too many people have bought into it.
I think the military-industrial complex has been a part of our culture for so long.
It's way out of control. It's not doing the will of the American people.
The U.S. has been stoking this for some time, and warmongering. I think that there are people within the United States government who have a history of trying to provoke conflict with Russia between NATO. They use NATO, but the United States is the main driver of NATO.
Та кількість похорон, яку я відвідала за останній рік, перевищує, напевно, загальну кількість.
Ракет багато літає, що ще може бути гірше?